Now that we have understood the background of Beowulf, it is about time that we dig deeper into the story. Here's a fun fact, by the way. Beowulf is actually the longest epic ever written in English. However, did you know that some parts of Beowulf are not very much necessary and do not fit this epic standard during that time, which is why when we filter it and when we filter those unnecessary parts out, it would leave us with a very simple plot. However, we are going to discuss the part of the story into details in order for us to be able to understand it properly. Beowulf is a drive-by exposition where the narrator would provide historical backgrounds and context to provide a backstory. So if we boil it down to the essentials, we would be brought to a remarkably short epic compared to epic poetry standards like what I said. The story of Beowulf begins with a presentation of the characters who do not even appear in the story. It begins with Shield, who is the father of Beowulf, not the Beowulf that we are talking about, or this Beowulf is not the Beowulf in the title. This is only the son of Shield, who is the father of Halfdana, who is the father of Hrothgar. So therefore, Hrothgar here is the grandchild of Beowulf, again, who is not the Beowulf that the title talks about. Hrothgar, for all we know, is the king of Danes. However, what is very peculiar about Hrothgar is that it turns out that he very much liked loud parties, so he built Heorot. Heorot is a giant mead hall where they held their parties every night. They had loud music and they danced all night in this mead hall. What they didn't know was that because of the loud parties they held every night, they disturbed a monster. He is Grendel, and he is a monster living in Hrothgar's neck of the woods at the Goody Swamp called the Lake of Monsters. This was just beside Heorot, so whatever loud music was given off the Heorot was reflected back to his cage. So this maddened him, so he decided to attack Danes and the area around. So when he heard the loud music the next day, he decided to spread fear among the people. Grendel came in during the night when they were all fast asleep and preyed on them. He came to the Dana's mead hall and slaughtered 30 men every night. This killing went on for like 12 years, and for 12 years, Hrothgar seemed to not have been bothered. That was not until his people started to fear, and when they started looking for the people that they partied with. Knowing that he could not battle against Grendel, Hrothgar summoned the great Beowulf. Hrothgar has known him since he was a kid, so he asked Beowulf to kill Grendel. However, one of the warriors is doubtful of Beowulf's abilities. His name was Unferth. He was like, "Hey, Beowulf, I heard you lost a week-long swimming contest to your buddy Brecca, so how am I supposed to expect a loser like you to beat Grendel?" In his defense, Beowulf said that he was slowed down by the sea monsters he killed along the way. Despite all of those questioning, Beowulf agreed to kill the beast who has wrecked Heorot and Danes for years. He took his men, the Geats, and stalked for the beast, ready for war. Beowulf found Grendel before he could take another victim for his feast. His supernatural armor cannot be penetrated by normal swords, but Beowulf held him down until the monster struggled to get free and ripped his arm off. Yes, Beowulf ripped Grendel's arm off. Grendel went back home to wait out his final moments. When he died, his mother heard of what happened, so she plotted revenge on Heorot. Her main objective was to kill Beowulf. Meanwhile, in Danes, they were celebrating Beowulf's heroic actions. The people gave him gold, weapons, and treasure. Unferth even apologized for questioning Beowulf's abilities and gave him an heirloom sword as an apology present. After the celebration, everyone slept unaware of the danger lurking for vengeance. Grendel's mother came and took Hrothgar's trusted friend as a victim of her rage. She took back the arm of Grendel that was hanging on the walls of Heorot as well. Hrothgar sent Beowulf to go after the new monster. He told Beowulf that Grendel's mother lived in a magical swamp where not even animals have touched, no burns, and there is no bottom. He warned him of the beast's powers. It was there where they found the head of the advisor. Hrothgar was determined to purge Heorot of monsters, and Beowulf agreed to fight with payment of gold. So, Beowulf swam downward the lake for hours until he found the bottom. Can you just imagine how deep is that when you have to swim for an hour to get to the bottom? So, when Beowulf reached the bottom, Grendel's mother noticed his presence and trapped him in her grip. Beowulf was dragged by Grendel's mother back to her lair. He tried attacking her with a gifted sword, but it was no use. He tried using his bare hands, but it was no use either. Then he noticed an enormous sword. But it was no ordinary sword. It was a magical sword. He swung it, slicing Grendel's mother's head off her shoulders, killing her. Here's a fact. Both Grendel and his mother are immune to mortal weapons, but the sword Beowulf grabbed had been forged by giants and thus was capable of hurting her. Why Grendel's mother kept the one thing capable of killing her within an arm's reach is probably a subject of much scholarly debate. After killing the mother, Beowulf spotted Grendel's corpse and sliced off the head. Gripping the head, Beowulf swam up nearly pure water. He brought the head back to Heorot and gave it to Hrothgar as a gift. And then the Geats went back to their homeland. When he arrived, Beowulf told the king and queen about the battles he had while he was away. He gave the king a large portion of the treasure he earned. Beowulf was praised throughout Geatland. He inherited the kingdom from the king Hygelac when he was killed in a battle. Actually, they lived in peace for quite some time. However, a servant stole a golden goblet from a dragon's treasure. The dragon terrorized Geatland. He broke from the barrow where he had stayed for over 300 years trying to find the offender. Failing, the dragon went on a rampage, setting fires on homes and lands. Beowulf's throne hall was burned down by the dragon's fiery breath. The now old king plotted revenge. He took his mighty shield and a large army to go after the dragon, to adventure. In the battle, Beowulf's strikes were not effective. Out of fear, 11 of his men ran away, but one man was left standing, and that was Wiglaf. Seeing Beowulf's difficulties in the battle, even in fear, he decided to help. All right, let's do this. Unfortunately, the dragon bit Beowulf in the neck. However, Beowulf saw this as an opportunity to kill the dragon. Beowulf ordered Wiglaf to stab the dragon right on its flank. When he had been freed from the dragon's bite, he pulled a knife from his belt and stabbed the scaly monster where Wiglaf hit it first. The dragon was finally killed. However, the dragon's bite was poisonous. Unfortunately, Beowulf died. This just proved of the Anglo-Saxon belief that fate is responsible for death. So, the epic hero Beowulf died. But the story doesn't end here. Before Beowulf died, he gave his crown to Wiglaf, his only servant who did not leave his side. Wiglaf angrily denounced the 11 men who ran away. In honor of Beowulf, the Geats built a tall tower on a cliff above the sea as Beowulf requested, high enough for all passing ships to see. Inside was all of Beowulf's well-earned gold. And that concludes the story of Beowulf. Now, what does it teach about being humans? I believe that it teaches us human nature and how humans react to violence. Whenever we're bullied, it is human nature to fight back. While we do fight back, we look to leadership to get us out of the situation. Hrothgar's emotion help us connect with him and see his helplessness. However, in Beowulf, we see a guy who is helping people in need, kind of showing us that people are out there to lend a helping hand. And how does the story of Beowulf tie to modern society? This isn't the course of violence. It is because in Beowulf, there is constant violence, much like in the modern society where there is violence all around us. Also, we see a tie on the political leaders that we have now. Beowulf is a hero who tries to save Scandinavians from Grendel, and this is much like Abraham Lincoln or Jose Rizal, who spent efforts on freeing us from slavery.